Hey folks, welcome to the Market Internal Review for July 11th, 2023. Overall exciting day today. We had the gap up here in the morning. I believe the gap was about 50 cents. Okay, 75 cents. And the very first thing I noticed was the set of candles here and just how equal they were all equally sized. We opened with an extreme tick closure. The add and volt bands were green, catching up to their 20 SMAs here for the volume. And I saw that we were sitting right at Friday's, July 7th, TWAP price. Highly unusual to see that when we are ripping right out of the open. The other thing, the second extreme closure, which was the second 2-minute bar on SPY, was showing a trend balance. So that, coupled with the way these candles were shaped, just from my own personal experience, looked more like a kind of algorithmic price delivery. We did have this knife right after, which deviated back to the low, first standard deviation, blew right through TWAP. And this is, I would say, more typical when we're still building the mean price for the TWAP study. With that big knife that we had that just wiped out all this price here and brought us into this gap, I was starting to notice the fact that TRIN was showing a imbalance. With that being said, we're sitting at about 0.5 of the gap range here. And I have shared in the past that 0.5 is kind of an important measurement for me. 0.5 of gaps, 0.5 of big fat candles like this one here. So basically still sitting on my hands, watching, waiting to see what happens. Seeing a lot of divergence between the moving averages, the 20 SMA trend indicators for the add and vold. The vold itself is really dim, not really bright like the add is. So that is another indication for me that things are still trying to be resolved within the market from a directional standpoint. Watching the standard deviation previous levels here, I can see that we got a lot of wicks, and the candle structure here looks to be forming a base, but the average closures on tick is relatively flat. So that's not something you want to see when we are showing a potential trend imbalance. There should be some kind of directional movement. I do think that is representative of the fact that add and vold are not really in sync. Price movement is stronger than volume, and their directions are diverging. That being said, yet again, like we've seen in some of the past recent videos, we have a downward overall tick extreme movement. So high, little lower high, and mostly the same, but perhaps a little lower. And price has kind of done a little bit of a different shape. If I could find my tool here. So here we had an extreme closure. The next one is down. And then this one is even further down. So I guess that's roughly the same. So those are all the things I was watching. And per my experience, when we are trading above previous day's standard price targets, standard deviation price targets, all these dash levels here on the TWAP, I tend to think that we could have price discovery moves back down into here, at least to TWAP, previous TWAP, if not lower. When I saw that we built a base right around here, add and vold were more in sync, I was starting to consider perhaps a little bit more bullishness. I was mentioning in yesterday's video towards the end that I was expecting upside, potentially just based on vold assessment in a day. So definitely was sitting on my hands a lot, given that what I was seeing intraday today and my assessment of vold yesterday, nothing was really lining up. And I personally feel like the whole market itself was kind of in the same boat with all the different divergences. So when this is real soupy like this, it's just best to sit and wait. Be stubborn and wait for the clear opportunities. At least for me, when using TWAP, when using the internals, the real trades, not that all of them go right, but the real trades that end up paying out very nicely, they're really obvious by the time they manifest. So I tend to just wait until I get that kind of a move. Otherwise, I don't touch this market. I'll go look at individual names, trade other things. Not a big deal. That being said, the add and fold bands were green, off and on throughout the whole day. So there was a lot of opportunities. When you're paying attention to tick extremes, we had this low break here, but the previous ones were down over here. So we did make a higher low, even though tick was the bear ticks were lower this time. So that's another divergence. When we got that, add is lighting up a lot heavier. Volt is trending the right direction for a bullish move, and then we get this break and retest. It's kind of muddy, given that TRIN and just overall not a lot of tick strength, not a lot of actual strength in the market, but we got that break of first standard deviation high, retest, and break back above, and then we get a nice move up. We break through morning high of day, and then all the standard deviation bands. So that was a good trade. I personally did take that one and did very well. The overall big breakout like this, I was considering a move for higher after that, given that it kind of jerked a lot of other names and things around to higher prices. But yeah, we didn't see that right away, right? We wicked right back into TWAP, and we started oscillating back within the first standard deviation. So given that, statistically speaking, we should spend about 68% of our time in here. Once the full day's distribution is plotted out, that's basically what we did. And I think it's to be expected when trend is either showing a balance or the dots are not present at all. We're in no man's land. We're not bullish. We're not bearish. We're not in a balance. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So we get this dip back here on TWAP towards 230, and then we start to see trend balance again. But we don't stay there for very long. We wick right back out with a nice strong bull candle right above TWAP. So this to me was a clear retest, and this also has based right on this third deviation level from yesterday's session. This is the high level, 440.32. Wicked right on it. So with that being said, we finally see full alignment on add and volt. Their trends are bullish. We're starting to see, we had this whole period today, most of the day, just a couple of tiny little breaks above and below the 500 points on tick, but effectively from 11 until 2, we'll say safely, conservatively 2, maybe 2:30, we saw basically no action from tick. Then all of a sudden we get this. So we get this nice tick, TWAP's nice and bright, adds bright, everything's starting to flip bullish, and we get the full alignment right here on this candle. I love these candles. This nice, strong bull candle. It's making a statement. Everything is in alignment. And this is what I mean when I say I'm stubborn and I watch and wait for these opportunities, because when they appear, it's obvious, at least to me and to everything that I've been presenting on this channel up to this point. All the green tick action, everything here, full alignment. So this was a fantastic trade. You could go below this recent low here. You could go below this low, this standard deviation level. And for me, you target the standard deviation band, since we're above all the previous day's standard deviation ending prices. We had all of that, and we even broke this last tick price that we had from Friday. So we had a tick closure. We broke above that, and that's when we lost before we dumped. So that was a critical price that I kept in my back pocket. and you can see we had this violent reaction to break through that price, which is right where we saw at 348 the extreme tick closure. So definitely when you have levels on your chart, if you want to see if they're actually relevant per the entire market, watch tick. If you see an extreme closure around that level, then you know that that level is important. At least that's how I interpret it. Let's turn tick levels on here. So intraday tick levels. This makes perfect sense. It has really good alignment with TWAP price itself. So we spent a lot of time right around TWAP price. Big fat tick level here. Same thing for high a day. We printed a lot of tick breaks here above 500 right at the high a day, and it makes sense. We get all these ticks right around where these wicks are. We could not break this area previously, and then you're seeing the same thing over here where we're trying to break through it again. So we get a strong bull candle right above previous tick level, right above TWAP, full alignment on add and vold. Tick is actually showing some signs of life in the market. You could at least target this price here, which happens to be in alignment with the second deviation high. Of course, it starts to scale up as the price moves. Beautiful setup. Historical tick levels, you can see that we also had some right here, right where this price was, right where TWAP stayed flat, when all the bands stayed flat, was right around this historic tick level. And let's see, we had another one up here. We had a bear tick level. Don't know where that one's from a long while ago. We broke through that one, and then we closed right on another one. Not sure where that one's from either. So really cool stuff there. Lots of trim levels. Quickly take a look at the Qs. Qs also had a similar kind of movement, a little bit more violent and not as much of a gap up. So this candle here was way more aggressive, and they did test yesterday's TWAP price. This W pattern, I see this a lot. Yeah, they actually did a full retest of the standard deviation zone from yesterday, the first one. That's what this was here. You can see the dotted lines, TWAP. So we fully retested that entire range before we finally accepted it and went for higher. We did dip back in later in the day as well. But yeah, this was still roughly around the same time we get the TWAP acceptance breaking, and since we were within the range, you could trim on these previous day standard deviation levels. That's also right where we had some price test and rejection here. Very interesting. So let's see how we oscillate right around here, all these wicks, and retest. Strong break right there. That was another entry if you'd rather wait for a strong breakout. This is more of a momentum style breakout. This is a reversal style breakout. Mean reversion. Very cool. The Dow and Russell were, I think, stronger today. Massive gap up and mainly accepted early in the day. Did not see that strong. I mean, we did have a drop, but it was not a knife like we had on SPY and Qs. Broke through some old levels I have from previous videos. But yeah, I mean, just a lot stronger, a lot more upwards direction. Still flat through the afternoon or noon session, just like we were on SPY and Qs. So everything had a lull. And you'll see when we look at add here in a little bit. Okay, the Russell, I thought the Russell was stronger, but looking at this entered at the end of the day, yeah, I guess it was pretty much doing the same thing, at least in the first half of the day, that Q and SPY was doing. We did see the nasty knife, the aggressive mean reversion, failed attempt at a breakout, oscillate through that first deviation 68% range. Then we had our end of day kind of breakout. But we get that strong candle, but we get that strong candle right here at the end of the day, and boom, they hit 190 and change psych level there, those whole numbers. Great. All right, tick. Yeah, so tick started at extreme highs, which we already know, we covered that, breaking back through, and then here you can see that midday slump. We did get that big wick that took us into the bear zone, but it did not stay, and we really didn't see another sign of the bears for the rest of the day, right? No breaks. This is just all neutral, bearish neutral, bullish neutral. You see a lot more, not a lot like we've seen in the past, but definitely more bullish activity than we've seen from the bears today. TRIN had some crazy candle action today. We started in the bear zone, break the 20, and we don't take a lot of time at all to make our way down here to the 0.7 and below bullish area, but we never really grab hold of that full bull zone. This is where I want to see it for an actual kind of trending bullish day, and we didn't get it. We flirted a lot with balance. We saw that a handful of times, so very weird action today. Still some opportunities today, but this is not a strong trending kind of day when you see this. Looking at the ad, this was the first thing in the morning. I'm sitting here watching, and I'm seeing these rejections of the bull zone on the ad, and there was pretty aggressive drops. We had one here, another one here was not as aggressive, but another one here. We did trend above the 20 SMA for the morning, but we gave that back as we had that midday lull. And this area here is kind of where we were range bound, and we just could not really make a decision, high or low, or where we were going. But this is why I preach the usage of 20 SMA or whatever you like to use. It could be an EMA or whatever, but just something that gives you an indication of what the sentiment change is in the moment for the New York Stock Exchange. So if the entire collective of stocks has gone above a moving average or below, you can use that to really help guide your in the moment sentiment analysis of the ad. So maybe you were bearish here, but hey, we start wicking up and breaking the 20 high and basing around it before we head higher. That's bullish. So you would not want to be bearish in theory, unless you're trading something inversely correlated, you would not want to be bearish in theory when we're over our SMA here. So by 240, there's a clear bull candle here, and strong, we clear some of this other price activity here, and we broke the 20. That's an indication that potentially there's a bullish flip. And if we go back to SPY at 240, that's when we see this bull candle right here. That's the entry for me, anyways. Now I took it with the Russ, but same thing. So we get it right in here, and away we go. Right? We didn't really stop the whole time. It took a little bit because the market as a whole is not really feeling it, I don't think, today. But yeah, so that's the kind of alignment that you want to see when the internals align with SPY, or when SPY aligns with the internals. That's when you can have the confidence to know that you've got the weight of the entire exchange behind your setup, behind your position. And that's what you want to see. For Vold went real strong today. Clearly the trend for the volume was dip buying. The volume was pouring into declining stocks the entire day. We had a little break here, but look, 240, there's that hit right on this key level, and then we just ripped right through it. So That being said, for my final assessment today, we have CPI tomorrow with SPY and VOLD largely in agreement. I'm not going to really say bullish or bearish tomorrow. It could go either way. With CPI, I don't know what the forecasted numbers are, but we don't know if the market just spent time pricing in a potential CPI forecast. It could have been priced in last week. We won't know until tomorrow. But just pay heed to what I said yesterday. The internals are great. I fully believe in them. My setup has worked time and time again, but anything can happen. When that CPI data is released, if there's any volatility, the spreads can widen and people can really get messed up on the order fills. So please be careful. But yeah, I'm not going to really give any projections. I think it could go either way. I do think on the whole, when I view higher time frame across all the four major indices, I think today's action, the prices we were able to reclaim, that basing kind of structure that we've built, I do think we have more chance for upside. But by how much? When could it happen? Is it going to happen tomorrow or Thursday, or maybe it won't even happen this week? I don't know. But that's just kind of my overall bias, I guess you could say. But I refuse to trade with that bias. I trade with the internals. So again, if you have any questions, I posted my Twitter handle in yesterday's video. You can find me on Twitter. Otherwise, reach out to me in the comments, either in TradingView or YouTube. And I hope you had a fantastic trading day. And as always, thank you for watching.